So I'm going to go ahead and start from the top. So basically what we're going to do is do an overview with the entire software. So we're going to start from the tabs, the toolbar, buttons, and we'll actually go through and create a new quote in QuoteWerks from start to finish, so you can kind of see what the workflow would be when using the software. So the first tab, the Document Items tab, this is the first tab in the Quote Workbook up here at the top. The Quote Workbook is the terminology we're going to use anytime you read the manual or speak with one of us. We'll often reference it, and this is what we're talking about are these 6 tabs. The Document Items tab down here is going to list all of your items, so products or services that you add to this current quote in QuoteWorks. So anytime you have a item that you're including, it's going to show up here. You can make any changes to it once it's in this particular quote, so you can change the quantities, update the descriptions, change prices, part numbers, anything like that. You can make those adjustments here. The next tab is going to be the Sold to, Shipped to tab. This is what's going to be your contact information. So this is going to be where you're going to pull your contact information, whether you're using a CRM or PSA that we integrate into, or if you're just using Outlook or QuoteWorks as your contact manager, or if you just want to type that information in manually, this is where you're going to put that contact information. This is important because this is who we're going to send the document to, so you always want to make sure you at least put the contact information in here, whether you're pulling from somewhere or you're manually updating it. Go ahead and see if we can just wait a second for GoToMeeting to catch back up to the tab that we're on. And then anything that you add in here can be, you see there's going to be 3 fields. There's a Sold to, Shipped to, and Bill to fields. These fields are not going to be related to each other. So if you need to have one address for one location and another for another location, if you're selling to one location, shipping to a different, and billing to a different, you'll be able to do that in software. It won't be a problem. The Sale Info tab is going to be document-specific information. So there's going to be a few things that you are going to want to fill out on this field. This is where we're going to set the tax rate. So for instance, when you're ready to submit this document to the customer, you can set the tax rate here based on their location, or if there isn't one, you can just set it as 0, or if it's just non-taxable items, you can do that as well. If you have any contracts that you're going to be assigning to the customer, or there's just dates that you need to reference, you can use the contract dates that are available to them. The customer PO number field will allow you to reference customer PO number. So if they had given you this information and asked you to include it on the document, you can attach it here. Terms, if you have terms for your customer, again, that you want to reference on the document, you can enter those in here. The document date is going to be the date of the document. So this is typically when the document was created. So it gives you kind of a point for being able to search on your documents when that document was created or updated or changed. Sales rep, this is going to be who the document is assigned to. This is who basically has ownership of that document. It can be changed if you have proper settings where you can actually adjust the sales rep if you're creating a document on someone's behalf. That's actually where this prepared by field is very useful, is that, if John Q sales rep is out of the office, you can use a prepared by field to create a quote on their behalf and assign them as a sales rep. They'll still be listed as the contact information on that quote. You're the one who's creating it for them, so you can have access to it while they're out, but they'll be able to actually see that a quote was created for them at this time, and then they can do the proper follow-ups with their customer. The expiration field, this is where it can be set automatically, typically under the Tools Options menu. On the Installation tab, you can actually set or the Documents tab, rather, you can set the expiration date. We have ours set for 30 days from the document date, so it'll automatically fill this in. You can also, if you double-click in here, this will actually bring up a calendar, and you can adjust the calendar view in here as well. Next tab is going to be the Notes tab. The Notes tab has 4 different notes fields. We have the Introduction and Closing on the left-hand side and the Purchasing and Internal on the right-hand side. The Introduction and Closing notes are typically notes you would want the customer to view. So this would be anything from about us information, ordering instructions, boilerplate information, anything like that. You can use the Introduction and Closing notes for, and you don't have to worry about using a line item or anything like that in the document. If it's something you want to kind of specify either before or after the document, you can use these fields, and it's very useful for that. The Purchasing and Internal notes on the right-hand side are notes that you would typically reserve for internal use only, and by default, they're not shown on any QuoteWerks documents. So if you have any notes, that you want to include specifically for this particular order or this specific customer or just a specific document, you can use these purchasing and internal notes fields. You don't have to worry about them showing up on the document. They'll just be for internal use. Very useful if you have multiple reps working on the same document. They can actually leave notes for each other here about changes they've made or changes that need to be made to this particular document. So we'll go ahead and we'll go to the Custom tab, and see if we can give a GoToMeeting a second to catch up here while the rest of the information is being broadcast. The Custom tab is going to be used for any type of custom information that you need a field for, but you don't see one available in QuoteWerks. So anytime you have something that you usually include in your quote or proposal, you can actually include that in the Custom tab information. I'm going to show you here how we can actually update that, so you can rename these fields so that if you do need to add an additional field, you can repurpose any of these fields. So just give this a second to catch up. All right, so it looks like we're should be pretty much caught up here. So if you look over at the top, there's Custom Text 01. If you wanted to repurpose this field for something else, so for instance, we don't have an account number field in QuoteWerks, so maybe you have account numbers for your customers or your contacts, you can hold Control on your keyboard, double-click on the label name, and then this will bring up the Change Label Name information. And then this window will let you change the label name. There's going to be a delay in what I'm doing and what I'm clicking, so just kind of have to bear with me here. I'll try to wait for it to catch up as much as possible. But this will basically display how you can change the label name and what you can change it to. It'll always show you the default label name up at the top, so you can always remember what the field is called, and then you'll be able to enter in a new one. So for instance here, we're actually going to call this account number. So I'm simply just going to type in here account number, and that's going to fill in my label name, and then it'll actually change mine up at the top where I can hit OK, and it'll save that to as the new Custom Text 01. It'll now be called account number instead of Custom Text 01. Once you've done this a couple times, you can actually do this with other tabs as well. So on the Sold To, Sale Info, or Notes tab, if you wanted to repurpose any of the fields on those tabs, you can hold down Control, double-click on that label name field, and that will actually update those fields as well. So it makes it very useful to continue to use the same verbiage that you're used to in the software. You can easily make those changes and customize it, and it's a really quick customization that you make. Now, be prepared that this is a customization that's going to be installation-wide. So if you make a change on your installation, if you have master rights or you're just an admin user in QuoteWerks, and you make this change, it's going to affect everybody. So you do want to make sure that it's something that everyone in the company is doing. You don't want to just customize your own for that. That's going to be really on the document items tab. You can make changes like that. But the custom tab or the notes, sale info, sold to, ship to tab, if you're making changes there, that's going to be installation-wide. So once you've made those changes, we can move over to the links tab. The links tab is going to be useful if you have any type of additional documentation that you want to include with your quote or proposal that you're creating here in QuoteWerks. So if you have a statement of work, a Visio or CAD drawing, an Excel spreadsheet, PowerPoint presentation, Word document, any type of document that you want to attach to the specific document you're working on in QuoteWerks, you can either drag and drop it here. If you include something on here, you will actually be able to choose whether or not it is sent to the customer, so actually have full control over that. Once we catch up here on the Links tab on the GoToMeeting, I'll show you where you can also add additional documents. So if you don't know exactly where the document is saved and you need to search for it, there's a blue plus sign up in the top right corner, and you can click on that, and that will let you open up a window to navigate to that specific document in your machine. If it's out on the network or something like that, you can attach it. Now, anything that's included on the Links tab, the link will always be there. However, if you link something that someone else doesn't have access to, they obviously won't be able to pull it in. So if you have something on a network drive and you link to it and sales rep B doesn't have access to that particular resource, they won't be able to access it. In QuoteWerks, in the QuoteWerks directory, there is a folder called the Resources folder. This links directly to the Links tab, so if you have information that you want everyone to have access to, but you're going to be using the Links tab a lot, you can save it in that Resources folder. So again, that's in the QuoteWerks directory. It's called Resources, and you can save your documents in there. And again, with that, that'll also be backed up if you're backing up the QuoteWerks folder as well. We're going to go back to our document item screen just so we can prepare to start sending a quote. But before we do that, we're going to just briefly touch on the toolbar shortcuts up at the top. And again, we're just going to have a little bit of a lag here, so we're going to wait for GoToMeeting to catch up with us. But basically, the first couple buttons are going to be pretty self-explanatory. Probably use those on a regular basis. The toolbar shortcuts are really just the most commonly used menu options from the very top. So if you look at the very top of QuoteWerks, you'll see that there are different menu options of File, Edit, View, Products, Tools, Contacts, Reports, Utilities, Window, and Help. So the toolbar shortcuts directly below that, those icons, those are just the most commonly used shortcuts. So New is going to create a new blank document. It'll look exactly like this. Won't have anything in there. It's just like if you're starting out fresh. Open is where you're going to search for any previously created documents. So if we click on our Open icon, this is where we are going to be able to search for any documents that you create in QuoteWerks. Once this catches up here, you'll see that you're going to have quite a few options for doing a search. You'll be able to search by the document name, the document number, the type of the document, so you know is it a quote, order, invoice, the status of the document. Is it open? Was it closed? Won? Drafted? Created? Whatever statuses you're using. The company it was created for, the contact it was created for, the document date. So if you wanted to set like a specific range of dates that you wanted to look for a document, you can do that as well. Expiration date, if you wanted to look to see which quotes are expiring soon, you can do that as well. You can also filter out by the sales reps who created the documents, and then any items that you created. So if you are searching for a specific item when you are looking for your documents, you can select by items as well. So this makes it very easy to build a filter or report for yourself that you can quickly get to a document that you're looking for. Or you can do kind of more of a broad stroke as like a sales rep. You can come in here and you can set the the document type to quote and the document status to open and the sales rep to your own and the expiration date to this week. And then that would give you an example of all the quotes that are expiring this week. So it just makes it very easy to find, locate, and manage your documents without having to search around the network or anything like that. We'll go ahead and we'll close out of this window. The next icon is going to be the Save icon. So that's directly next to the Open icon. The Save is going to obviously save the document in QuoteWerks. On the Save, a few things are going to happen, however. When you save the document in QuoteWerks, we're going to apply the document name. If you have selected a contact, typically the naming convention is going to be the document name, the company name with the date. That's just the default naming convention, so if that's what you see in yours but you want to change it, you are able to adjust that in the options menu in QuoteWerks. The document number will be assigned automatically, so typically you're just going to use a QuoteWerks numbering sequence, so we'll assign that for you. The status will be set as open. Again, that's just a default setting that can be adjusted in the options menu as well in QuoteWerks. And then project number will be assigned automatically as well. However, you can change that if you want to, and we'll get into a little more detail on that. If you're using a CRM or PSA, when you click on Save, it will prompt you to create like the opportunity if that option is available, create a follow-up activity or a follow-up call if that opportunity is available as well. So if any of that information is available, you'll see actually underneath that screen that's a little dialog box available. The revision button, this is going to display or help you create any revisions of your existing documents. So if you create a new quote in QuoteWerks and you send it out to your customer and they come back to you and they ask you to make an adjustment, instead of having to do like a file copy or file save as to the original document, you can simply click on the revision. It'll make a copy of that original document for you, and then you can make any changes. It'll also add a -01 to the end of the document number so that you know it's the first revision of the original document. So each time you create a new revision, it'll add -01. The next one will be your document number -02, and then document number -03, and so on. You also have the option of deleting the previous revision. So if you just want to work on the latest version of the document, you'll be able to do that as well. The Deliver button, this is obviously when you're ready to deliver the document to your customer. You're going to make your selection on what the output is going to look like. So this is where you will select your layout. You'll also select what the delivery method is going to be. Are you going to email a PDF? Are you using QuoteValet and we're going to upload the document to QuoteValet? Are you going to save it out as a PDF and fax it and print it and fax it later? You'll have all those options available, and we'll go into more detail here in just a few minutes on that when we actually create our new document. The dashboard icon, this is going to display a quick summary of your recent documents in QuoteWorks. So once this pops up on your screen here, you'll see that this will be able to show you any quotes that you've created this month, how many of those were converted to orders, how many were created last month, how many of those were converted to orders, how many 2 months ago. So all that information will be available. It'll also show you the dollar amount of those documents as well, so that total dollar amount, so you can kind of see a pattern of your sales for the last couple months. On the bottom left corner, you'll see all the recent documents that you've worked on. So those will be available for you. So if you need just like quick access to something you've worked on recently, those will be available. If you have any documents that are expiring within the next 7 days, those will actually be displayed in this middle column. This is a very nice tool for reps where they can quickly come in and see if there are any quotes they need to follow up on that are expiring within the next 7 days, or try to close them before the documents are expired, or maybe just send a reminder message to your customers that the quotes are going to be expiring soon. The QuoteValet icon, this is going to be where your what we call the QuoteValet dashboard. So this is going to display kind of like, there's essentially 3 tabs. There's the inbox, the notification, or the inbox reporting, and the payments. So the inbox are going to be a list of your notifications about the QuoteValet documents. So this is going to show you anytime a customer has viewed a quote, accepted, made payment, or anything like that. That information is going to be displayed here. Again, we'll go into a little more detail here in just a moment. If you're not using QuoteValet, because it is an add-on to QuoteWorks, then this button just simply won't be there, so you won't see this icon. So if you're looking at your installation and you don't see it, that's why you just don't have QuoteValet currently. Products, this is your products or where your products or services are going to be in QuoteWorks. So if you have one database, multiple databases, or you're linking to external databases, or you're using Utilize to search for items from the distributors, this is where you're going to look for any items that you want to add to your document in QuoteWorks. Again, we'll go into more detail. I'll actually pull some items from the product content subscription powered by Utilize, so you can kind of see how that works as well. Bundles, these are groups or kits of items in QuoteWorks. So if you sell items together on a regular basis as like a package deal, you can create a bundle instead of having to individually select those items each time. So if you are offering your customer, maybe these 4 items you sell every day or, a couple times a week, and you're always having to individually select them, instead of doing that, you can create a bundle of those items, and you just select the bundle, and they'll be added to the document for you automatically. Can save you a lot of time because you can do basically 2 types of bundles. You can do a group bundle, which would have them grouped together, and then you can apply different line attributes where you can say, okay, these items are hidden, or the price is hidden so that the customer can't price shop you on those individual items. You also have the option of just doing a simple bundle where it's just, I want them to just look like they were on the document, but just as one, so you can add all the items to the document at once. The configurator is useful if you have a lot of accessories or options for your bundle. So basically, it's a flowchart that you would set up on your own, and it would walk you through step-by-step building a bundle in your QuoteWorks document. So it'll basically say, okay, the example that we have in here is that there's an entertainment system. So it walks you through the first step of selecting your TV, then asks you what type of TV, what size TV, do you want a wall mount, do you want a ceiling mount, and then do you want to include a receiver, do you want to build it as an entertainment package. So it has all these accessories and options, and just make sure that you don't forget to add anything to the document. And then it'll add that as a group bundle onto your quote or proposal, and then you can make any further adjustments from there if needed. Your best, latest, and compare buttons, these are to refresh pricing on any existing documents you have in QuoteWorks. So if you have if you use multiple vendors, or if you're using any of the IT distributors that we integrate with, specifically like Tech Data, Ingram, Synex, D&H, you can use the best, latest, and compare to refresh pricing on your documents. The best button is going to source it from the best cost vendor. So if vendor A and vendor B have the same items with the same part numbers, you can use best, and it'll source it from the best cost vendor. So if you send out a quote to your customer and they come back to you 6 months later, and they say, okay, now we're ready to add these items, or we're ready to move forward. So can you just update this quote? Instead of having to individually select each item and re-quote everything out, you can use the best, latest, compare to refresh it. So best will source it from the best cost vendor. So if you source it from vendor A and now vendor B has better pricing, it'll automatically source it from vendor B. Latest is going to source it from the latest cost from that vendor. So if you don't have multiple vendors, or your pricing has just changed, or this is the only vendor that carries it, you can just use latest, and that'll just give you the latest or updated pricing from that particular vendor that you already have selected on the quote. And then compare, we'll let you compare in like a grid format so that you can actually check which vendors have the best price. If you're using the IT vendors that we have in with real-time, you can actually see which ones have the best price with stock and source it from there instead, so you'll have that option. And then the last couple icons we're just going to go through briefly. The contacts icon, that is going to let you search for your contacts in your CRM or PSA, or if you're using QuoteWorks for your contact manager, you'll be able to open up the contacts window. A lot of the CRM applications that we integrate into, they do allow you to pull the currently open contact from that application into QuoteWorks. You can use that using the icon next to it, this little icon that says contact that has a little card picture. And then the purchasing window, this is going to be if you're going to be placing online orders with Tech Data, Ingram Micro, Synnex, or D&H. You can place the orders directly through QuoteWorks once the quote has been accepted by the customer. And then the QuickBooks link, that will let you submit the order to QuickBooks, or submit the document to QuickBooks as either an estimate, sales order, or invoice. There's also one available for Peachtree, so if you use Sage 50 or Peachtree, there's an icon here available. I just have my default set to QuickBooks, but if you set yours to Peachtree, the Peachtree link will show up there, and that will let you send your documents over to Peachtree as sales orders or invoices as well. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to start a brand new quote in QuoteWorks. So the first thing we want to do is we want to select our contact that we're going to be selling to. So we're going to click on our Sold To, Ship To tab, and this is going to bring us the option to select a contact for the Sold To, Ship To, or Bill To. So once you've decided that you're ready to create your document, we can go ahead and select our contact. So we're going to click on our magnifying glass right next to the Sold To name. You can also do the Ship To or the Bill To, but typically, you're always going to start with the Sold To. So we're going to click on the magnifying glass up in the top right corner of that Sold To section. And this is going to bring up our lookup contact window. So depending on what CRM or PSA software you're using, it'll have that contacts information so you can pull from there. So if you're like using ACT or Goldline or MSCRM or Outlook or whatever, you'll be able to search for your contacts from that particular application and pull them into QuoteWorks. Again, the Sold To is the important field. You always want to make sure you fill out the Sold To. The Ship To and Bill To, those are just additional fields. If you need them, they're there. If not, you can actually leave them blank. There is an All button all the way to the right, so you can click All, and that will actually populate all 3 fields for you. If you are selling just to the one company or the one location, you can use All, and it will populate all 3 fields. Like I said, really the only one that you need to make sure that you always fill out is a Sold To. That's going to be the most important. So I'm going to go ahead and click All and populate all 3 fields, just so we have them, since we're going to be creating this document for the same customer. And then once I've selected my contact and added it to the document, I can click on Close and close out of that window. Anything on these fields can be changed. So if you need to edit a customer's contact name, company name, title, address, city, any of that stuff you can make changes to here. So if, maybe it's all the contact information is the exact same, but maybe it's just going to go to someone else and you want to put their contact name in here, you can simply type in their contact information instead of having to pull it from your CRM or PSA application. Now, if you look directly to the right of the Sold To, Ship To tab, you'll see a new panel just opened up called the Active Quotes for Contact. This is going to display any contact or any quotes that you created for this specific contact that you selected on the Sold To fields. So if you've already created a quote that's open for this particular contact, you'll actually see this panel will open up, and it'll show you a list of those information. So you can quickly see if you had already created a quote. Very useful if you have multiple reps who are creating quotes for documents or for other users. They can actually see maybe this person had called in and had also sent an email. Well, when you go to check that email, say, okay, I need to create this quote for this customer. And then when you pull that contact into QuoteWorks, we'll actually show you, hey, someone's already created a quote on this date. So it just makes it very easy to kind of see if a quote already exists for that particular customer before you spend your time in creating it together. I'm going to go ahead and close out of that panel. And then we're going to go ahead and click on the Document Items tab to start organizing our document. So this is where we can start building our document now that we have our contact on the Sold To, Shipped To tab. On the Document Items screen, if you right-click, this will bring up the Edit menu. This is important because this is going to allow us to insert a heading line. So a heading line is basically just a way to organize your document into different sections. The headings can be whatever you want, and this is purely optional. You don't have to do it this way. So if you wanted to insert a heading for Location 1, Location 2, Room 1, Room 2, phases of the project, or hardware, software, different options you're putting available, you can use the heading lines for whatever you want for that. For this case, we're just going to do a very kind of generic headings. We're going to go ahead and select Insert Heading, and we're going to do Products. So we're just going to be kind of generic here. And so this will bring up your heading description box, and then this is where you just simply type in the description that you'd like to use. Again, this is purely optional, so if you don't organize your document this way, you can completely skip this step and move on to adding particular items to your document. So I'm going to go ahead and add products, and then we're going to go through, and I'm just going to go ahead and add another one for services. And then we'll also add one for optional items as well. And we'll let that catch up here in just a moment. If you are going to be using heading lines or using heading lines currently, and maybe you use 15, 20 different heading lines, you have quite a variety of heading lines that you use, you can actually create document templates in QuoteWorks that will already have these heading lines set for you. So that way you don't have to type them out each time. To create a new template in QuoteWorks, simply go under the File menu, and then there's an option for Save as Template. And then you'll just apply a document template name. So it'll prompt you to basically call it whatever you would like. This one I'm not going to save, but this is where you can do that. You can see it's just called Untitled Quote. And then you can hit OK, and it'll be saved for you so that if you do need to use this particular template again, it's always available for you. To access the templates, that's going to be under the File menu. So if you click under File and then New, this will bring up the New Document option, and the default is going to be a blank tab with the quote order invoice, so if you want to create a blank quote, blank order, blank invoice. And then you'll also see there's a template tab available, and if you click on that, that will actually show you a list of your templates that are available that you can select from. And I'm going to go ahead and cancel out of there since we don't need to do that. Just give it a second to catch up here. So once you have your heading lines, if you're using them, and you save your template if you're doing that as well, you can then begin adding your items to the document. So when we're ready to add items to our document, we're going to click on our products icon, or you can click on the products menu option and choose lookup. So either one, I always use the icons because they're just, like I said, there's shortcuts for those menus, so it's a little easier and faster to get around. So we're going to click on the products icon, which is right next to the bundles icon. And this is going to load our product lookup screen. So the product lookup screen is going to display on the left-hand side all of your databases that are available, so all the databases that you can quote from. The top one is going to be Utilize. Now, this is only going to be used primarily by IT companies. So if you purchase from Tech Data, Ingram Micro, Synex, D&H, or Westcon, which is also known as ComStore, you can search for items in this Utilize database. You'll be able to search by pretty much anything. You can search by manufacturer part number, vendor part number, product description, keyword. However you want to look for an item, you'll be able to do so here. So in this search for field, if I typed in a part number, it would actually return back the results for that particular part number or that keyword. If you sell a lot of the same items on a regular basis, so maybe one of your distributors is having some kind of sale on an item, and you're going to be pushing a lot of that particular item, you can actually create a pick list of those items in QuoteWorks and in this Utilize search, so you don't have to type in the part number each time because the part number can be pretty long. So if you double-click in this search for field, this will bring up the F2 lookup window. So the F2 lookup window is where you can actually build this pick list of items. So this is very useful, like I said, if you're going to be selling a lot of these items on a regular basis, you can create a list of these items, and you don't have to worry about having to type in that part number each time. Very simple. You just click on the New button once this F2 lookup window appears, and you can then put in the part number and then do // and then put in the item's description so that you can actually see what the item is for. So if you look at the one that I'm just highlighted, it might take a minute for it to show up on your screen here, but this is going to be the trip light switch. So this is the item I wanted to sell to this particular customer, but instead of having to type in this very lengthy part number, I can just go to my pick list of items that I had previously created and just add it this way. That way I don't have to type in that part number. So I hit select, and it's going to populate my search for field with that part number. And then once this loads, you'll be able to see that you'll be able to select the find button, or you can hit enter on your keyboard, and it'll do the same thing where it'll locate this item for you in Utilize. So it's going to go out to Utilize and find this item. Once an item has been found, it'll show up in the Utilize panel window, will actually be displayed. If a picture is available, the picture will show up. If there's no picture available, then it'll just have usually like a manufacturer like logo or something like that. This will show your description of this particular item, as well as if there's accessories available, you'll see there's an accessories tab near the bottom. Same thing with the spec sheet. If there's a spec sheet tab available, that'll be displayed as well. So once you've located your item and the one you'd like to use and you highlight it, you want to click on the real-time button, which is going to be the little lightning bolt, and this is going to go out to the distributors using your pricing. So whatever account credentials you've set up in QuoteWorks, we're going to use your pricing for this. So this would be the same as if you logged into Tech Data's website or Ingram's website or Cenex's website or G&H's website and got the same pricing and availability. But we're going to put this all in one spot for you so you can actually view this information here. Once your pricing has been found, you'll actually see it'll highlight in green the best cost. So it'll automatically highlight in green your best cost. And it also shows in parentheses the availability. And then on the right-hand side, it actually shows you by warehouse the particular warehouse where it can be sourced from. So if you selected, for instance, Tech Data has 4 of them, and you click on the right hand and you click on it, you'll see that the warehouses will be updated, and you can actually check from which warehouse the items can be shipped from. So you can see if they're close to you or if they're not. So maybe you want to source it from a different vendor if these warehouses aren't that close to you. From this screen, we can also check list or retail pricing. So if you've sold this particular part number, or if you want to check this part number with the online merchants, such as CDW, Newegg, Amazon, Dell, ProVantage, and Staples, you can actually see what they're currently selling this particular item for. So very useful if you have, if you just kind of want to see a good starting point where you're going to quote this item, we can actually go out to their websites and check that pricing for you. Now, this is not going to use your account credentials with those websites. This is only going to be consumer pricing. So it'd be the same thing if you went to cdw.com and search for a random item. It's not going to give you your account information. It's just going to be consumer pricing. It's just to kind of give you a ballpark of where this item is being sold for currently. So if we click on the globe icon near the bottom, this will load all the online merchants that currently have that item, and then we'll actually show you their price, and then there'll even be a website link. So if you wanted to just kind of verify that this is the correct item you're looking for, you can see there's a website link, and you can click on that, and that would actually open up their website in your web browser, so you just make sure it is the right item. So looking at all the prices, we can see that Tech Data still has the best pricing from here. So we're going to go ahead and source this particular item from Tech Data. So in order to source an item from one of the vendors, all you simply do is you can either double-click on the vendor you want to select it from, or if you have selected it, and you'll see that by the radio button that is selected, you can click on Select Add, and this will bring up the Add Item Assistant so you can add it to your document. The Add Item Assistant allows you to make some adjustments to this particular item before adding it to your document in QuoteWorks. So here you can select the quantity, So if you want to change the quantity using the up and down arrows, you can do that. You can also just type it in as well. We can also adjust the price. I have a default modifier set for P10, which would be profit of 10% off the cost, but you can adjust this as well. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to type in, we're going to sell 3 of them. I'm going to change my quantity to 3. If you want to type in the price as just kind of a flat price, you can do that as well. So if you said, I just want to sell this particular item for $900, you can type in $900, and it'll update for $900. If you want to mark it up from cost, maybe you just do we just mark our hardware items up 20% from cost. You can do an M20. That'll let you mark it up 20% from cost as well. If you look to the right of the price modifier / price field, there's an ellipsis button. Clicking on this will show you a list of the price modifiers available. So if you don't remember our shortcuts or don't know our shortcuts, you can click on that, and that will let you select your price modifier that you would like to use. So this will let you select the markup percentage, the margin amount, or if there's a list price available, you can select the discount from list, or you can actually sell it at list price. So this will let you quickly make those changes. So I'm going to go ahead and mark this one up 20% and leave that as is. On this Add Item Assistant, you'll also see there's 2 price history options. There's price history for customer Aspire Technologies and price history for this item. So price history for customer Aspire Technologies will actually display the this particular part number that you're selling to this particular customer. So you can actually see what you've sold this particular item to them previously. So if this is a customer that has a lot of reorders or just a lot of orders in general, you can quickly see the last time they ordered this particular item, the quantity, date, the modifier used, the document name, the result of it. All that information will be available to you right here. So it makes it very easy to stay consistent with your pricing, so you can quickly update that. Same thing with the price history for this item, which is the one directly below it. That will actually show you price history for everyone that you've sold it to, not just this specific customer. So if you wanted to, maybe you gave someone a good deal last week and you want to give this customer the same deal, you can quickly look that information up without having to, go through all the quotes or orders that you've created in the past week. You can quickly just see, oh, this is what I sold it to this particular customer last week, so I'm going to use this one. It's even good for just staying consistent with your pricing, where you can check, okay, I charge this customer a 20% markup, so I want to use a 20% markup on this one. I want to make sure I'm charging everyone the same one, so you can quickly see that information. So once you've set your quantity and your price, you've checked price history if you needed to, now you're ready to add this item to your document. This is where the heading lines can be very useful. So you can actually click on the under heading option and on the drop-down, and you'll see we have our 3 heading lines available. So we have our products, our services, and our optional items. So since this is a product item, I'm going to go ahead and click on products, and I'm going to highlight it for that one, and then I can hit add, and it's going to add it to our document. You'll see there's the option for add or insert. Add is going to add it below any items that are in there. Insert will add it above any items that are in there. So typically you want to use add unless you're trying to put this item in a very specific location in the document. Anytime you see add or append, just go ahead and use that. Like I said, unless you're trying to put it in a very specific location in the document, then you can use insert for that. So we're going to go ahead and hit add. And then if you look on our document items tab, you'll see that the item has now been added under our products section in our document. And obviously once that catches up here. So from here, as I mentioned earlier, you're also able to view accessory options. So accessories are right next to the Edelweiss sourcing tab, so near the bottom. And if you click on this, it'll actually display any accessory options that are available with this particular product. So if you have any items that you wanted to include or that you want to upsell the customer on, this is a great place to grab those from. If you click on the drop-down, you'll actually see there is it's broken down into different categories. This one in particular is going to be broken down into power cords, proximity sensors, services, and temperature and humidity sensors. So I'm going to go ahead and select power cords, since I know that this particular item doesn't come with one. And this is going to look very similar to the last tab we were just on. So you can see here that it's going to be very similar to the Edelweiss sourcing tab where we just had our item and our different distributors. And it's going to work in much the same way, where you will click on the real-time little lightning bolt to the right of the item. And you can click on that, and that'll go out to those distributors that you have accounts with in QuoteWerks, and you can choose which distributor you want to source it from. So for this particular one, Cinex has the best pricing, and it has it in stock. So we're going to go ahead and source it from Cinex. I'm just going to quickly add this to our document. So we're going to want 3 of those. Again, it's going to prompt you to bring up that Add Item Assistant. So you can select the quantity, again, your price modifier, and then we can set our heading as well. So we're going to, again, choose under Products and hit Add, and that'll add it under our Products heading for us. The Spec Sheet tab is right next to the Accessories tab. So you have your three tabs. You have your Utilize Sourcing, Accessories, and Spec Sheet. So when you click on Spec Sheet, this will display any technical information that might be available for this particular item. It's not available for all items, but a lot of them will have, especially major items like this. So this will let you include any type of additional information about this particular item that you'd like to include on your quote or proposal. And you can simply add it to the document by clicking on the Add to Links tab all the way at the right. And when you click on that, that will apply it as a PDF to your Links tab in QuoteWerks that we talked about earlier. Again, this is something that you don't have to include. It's just optional, but it's a nice thing. Sometimes the customer would like to be able to view that information, if they want some more technical information about this particular item that you're selling them. So go ahead and hit OK. And now we're going to move on to another database. So I'm going to go ahead and just select one of my other databases up at the top left. And actually I have a database in here called Demo Database, and I'm going to source in a couple items from here. The databases that you set up in QuoteWerks will look pretty familiar to this. So if you're importing your products in here or your services, or you're setting them up manually, you can create them in QuoteWerks. We can also link to existing databases. So if you do have some kind of CRM or PSA that has a database, a lot of the times we are able to link to those existing databases, so you don't have to necessarily import your products or services. We can also link to the Peachtree or Sage 50/Peachtree and QuickBooks databases. So if you have parts in there that you just want to be able to pull from QuoteWerks without having to import them, we can do that as well. So you can see here I have my demo database and I have my items listed here. And then I can go through and I can search by the manufacturer, vendor part number, description, manufacturer part number. Obviously I don't have very many items in here, but that's just by design, so that's a little easier to manage and display to you guys. So from here, I want to go ahead and add a support service. So I do have a 3-year support option as one of my items, so I'm going to go ahead and select that. And this is going to operate very similar to just the way we were in Utilize. Is you're just going to make your selection once you've found your item, and you can double-click on it, and this will bring up the Add Item Assistant again. And again, you can set your quantity. So we'll update it to, we'll just say we only need 1 of these. We don't need 3 of them. And then we can set our price as well. So we can set our price modifier, so we can mark that up. And we can check, again, our price history from our customer and for this item, and then we can select our heading. So since this is a service, I'm going to go ahead and add this under service. Now, one of the nice things about QuoteWerks is that if this item has the manufacturer part number and the manufacturer, you can actually check, and you have the Utilize subscription, you can actually check to see if this item exists in Utilize. If you don't have it, you can just simply add your items to the document, as you've probably already been doing. So we're going to go ahead and hit Add. And it's going to show up under our document item screen again, under our services, so that we have those items available. And then we also have a monthly recurring service that I'm going to add that's right below it, so that monthly monitoring. We're going to do the same thing there. We're just going to add it under service. And then I'm going to go ahead and add 1 item to our optional items here. And again, just mark this up. That as an optional item to QuoteWerks. So for your databases in QuoteWerks, you can have basically as many products or services as you want in the database. There's not really a limit. Typically what we see with most customers is they will organize their databases by vendors, but you don't have to. You could import all the vendors into one single database and manage it that way. It's kind of up to you, what's easiest for you and what makes the most sense for you. So once you've selected your items, you're ready to make any adjustments to this particular items that you have in your quote. So we're going to close out of this product lookup screen. So you can click close at the bottom right-hand corner, or just click on the little X up at the top right, and that'll close out of that product lookup screen. On the document item screen now, I can make any adjustments to this particular item. So now I'm going to be able to adjust the item's quantity, description, price, cost, part number, anything like that I want to make changes to. First, if you look at the item's description, you'll see it's truncated right here. If you double-click in the description field, it'll actually open up this zoom window, which is a resizable window. This zoom window will display the entire item's description. The description field in QuoteWorks holds about 32,000 characters, which is about 30 pages of text. So if you have very lengthy descriptions for your particular products or services, that's fine. QuoteWorks will be easily able to handle them, and you can feel free about putting that information in here. This Zoom window is also going to support spell check. So if you are, adding something in here manually or just want to check the spelling of something that you've previously created, you can see in the top left corner there's a spell check option for it, so you can add it to the document that way. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And again, if you wanted to check pricing or change pricing, you can do that. You can simply type in the price. So if you wanted to adjust the unit price manually, you can simply type in the unit price field. You'll see right next to the unit price field, there's also the price modifier. This is going to show you the modifier that we're currently using. And then above the price modifier column, you'll actually see there's a box that says totals for all items. This totals for all items will actually display your extended costs, so your total cost basically, your price, your extended price, your extended list, your profit amount, and your profit margin. So if you have cost in all your items, you can actually see your profit amount and your profit margin on your items in your document. If you don't have cost, it obviously won't work because we are just calculating that based off the cost of the items in the document. If you highlight a particular item, it'll actually update with just that item's information. So you can see that profit margin or that profit amount on that particular item, or you can do it for multiple items. So if we take our 2 items under our product section and we highlight the first one, and then I hold Control on my keyboard and I highlight the second one, so I'll actually update my totals for selected items. And now it'll show me my profit for those particular items and that profit margin. So it's at 16.61%. So if you're looking at that saying, it's on our products, we really need to receive at least a 20% margin, I can update the margin on these items at once by right-clicking. And this will, again, bring up that edit menu that we talked about earlier where we selected our heading lines. And I can scroll down near the bottom, and there's an option that says Apply Price Modifier. And then I'm going to click on that. And this is going to open up a Select Price Modifier window. Whoa. Okay, sorry about that. Just had some weird feedback. So once your Select Price Modifier window opens, you can then select your modifier here. So you can select the markup percentage. So if you're doing a straight markup, you can set that. Or if you wanted to do margin points, you can do that. So I'm going to change mine to 20 because we wanted to do a 20% margin. We want to make a 20% profit on our products. So I'm going to select that. And then you'll see that our price modifier is going to change from that top item where it says M20. It's going to change from M20 to P10. And P10, they're both going to be P20 now. So you can see now it says profit 20 or P20 on those 2 particular items. And then if I re-highlight those items, you'll see up at the top the totals for selected items now shows us the profit amount has increased, as well as the profit margin is now at 20%. So I'll let that catch up here so you can see what that would look like. So you can see up at the top now that it does say the profit is at 570, 20, 24, and then the profit margin is at 20%. And you can do that with all your items at once. You don't necessarily have to go by section, but you can break it up as you need to. One of the other things I want to show you on here are the line attributes in QuoteWorks. So we're going to go down to our optional item here, and we're going to right-click on it, and then we're going to bring up that edit menu, and then you'll see there's an option for edit line attributes. So if you highlight an item or multiple items and you right-click and bring up that edit menu, you'll see there's an edit line attributes, kind of like a third of the way down on that menu. The line attributes are how we define what type of product or service this particular item or items have in QuoteWorks. So this is where you can set, okay, are these items optional, yes or no? Do you want to change the tax code? Are they recurring? Do you want to hide the price? Things like that. So anything that's kind of like item related, where if you want to show something, you don't want to show something, it's optional, that kind of stuff, that's going to be judged basically on the edit line attributes option. So we're going to click on that, and that's going to bring up the line attributes window for this particular item since I only highlighted one. You can, like I said, if you wanted to adjust multiple items at once, you can hold Control on your keyboard and select multiple items at once and then do edit line attributes, and it'll let you edit those line attributes for all those items that you have selected. So the first option is going to be optional. So this is where you can set, is this item optional, yes or no, by clicking on the drop-down. If you set the item as optional, this item will still print on the output for the customer, but it won't be included in the document total until you check that box that says is selected. So when you check the box that says is selected, this means it is included in the total. It is part of the particular document. Tax code, this is going to be taxable or non-taxable. Hide price, this is whether your item is going to show the price on the document. So maybe you have items that you're grouping together in like a bundle and you don't want the customer to see the individual prices. You just want to give them like a subtotal, or maybe you're just running subtotal lines on the sections. You can choose not to hide the price, or you can choose to hide the price, and then the items will still show up on the document, but the customer won't be able to see the individual prices of those items. Same thing for quantity. If you don't want to show the quantity, you can do that as well. Very useful if you're offering any kind of service, specifically like labor or something like that, and you don't want to show the customer that it's 4 hours of labor. You just want to say, hey, this is a labor cost. It's a flat rate on the customer's point of view. You can hide the quantity. You don't have to worry about the quantity printing out on the document. Exclude line, that's useful if you have anything on the document that you don't want the customer to see and you don't want to include it in the quote total. So if you have, maybe you're using another part or another item for reference, you can use exclude line. That will show up on the document internally for yourself, but it won't show up for the customer, and it won't be included in the total. It's like the item's not even there. Like I said, it's just going to be for like an internal use part. Very useful if you're like creating an item on the fly and you're stealing another part's description or part number or something like that. You can use the exclude line. You don't have to worry about it, ruining your quote or anything like that. Print line, this is going to be where you want the item to show up on the document or not. So you can actually choose not for an item to print out. Again, useful if you're grouping items together. You could just sell these items as a package and just have like a header line for it. And so instead of it saying, here's your 4 items and the customer goes to price shop it, you can just say, hey, here's this package that we're selling you, and here's the price. The customer will never see the individual items. And that can be changed on a per item basis. It doesn't have to be all of the items. They'll still be included in the quote total, so it'll still be part of the document. The customer just won't be able to see it. Print picture, if you're associating pictures with any of your line items, you can choose whether or not you'd like those to show up on the document. This is going to be specifically definitely for Eagle Eyes. If you're pulling items from there that have pictures, you can change that. But if you're also attaching pictures manually, which I'll show you here how to do in a second, you can choose whether or not you want them to print out. Or if you have items in the database that have pictures set, you can choose whether or not you want those to show up on the document. And then the last one's going to be recurring. So I'm actually going to close out of this one and hit OK. And we're going to set that item as optional. And is selected, so it'll be included. And then we're going to right-click on our edit line attributes for our monthly monitoring service under services. And you can see here, once it catches up, that it'll show you that it is set to recurring. And then you're going to have a few different options for the billing cycle. You can do weekly, monthly, quarterly, or annual. If you check the box for if you want to include the first payment in the document total, this is where you can set if you want it to show up on the document, like be part of the total, or if you leave it unchecked, then it's like they get the first month free or the first week free or whatever it is. You can also change the cycle basis, so if it's a specific date, you can use those contract dates that we talked about on the sale info tab earlier, or if you wanted to do it like the beginning of the cycle where it's beginning of the week, beginning of the month, beginning of the year, you can do that as well. If you want to specify your dates here, we can do that also. So if we want to set the start date as today and do it for a year, we'll be able to do that. Once you have set your item as recurring, in the bottom right corner of the QuoteWerks screen, you'll actually see it shows up as recurring. And for instance, I only have one, and that's monthly, so it shows it there. It does include tax, so it's going to be the price plus tax or any applicable tax that's included there. So that'll show up for you. If you have multiple recurring, so if you have one that's weekly, monthly, quarterly, annual, or all of them, it will show up for each one, so you can actually see that. And that can be broken out for the customer as well. So you can actually show the customer, hey, this is your monthly total, or this is going to be your quarterly total, and then here's your document total. You'll be able to break all that out for the customer on the document. So from here, there's just a couple other options I want to show you before we move forward with sending this to our customer. So again, if we right-click, you're going to right-click a lot in QuoteWorks on the document item screens where this edit menu is going to be easiest to get to. You can add a few other type of line items to the document, you can insert a blank line. So if you are adding an item on the document on the fly, you can add a blank line that will have a one for the quantity, no description, and $0 value for the cost and the price. You can insert a comment line. So if you have something that you want to include in the document, but it's just text, it doesn't have a quantity associated with it, doesn't have any pricing associated with it, you just want to include information as text, you can use a comment line. Comment lines are also very useful for spacing. So if you're trying to space out, different sections in your document and just trying to give it a little more room, you can use a comment line or multiple comment lines for that. You don't have to worry about, a quantity showing up of like 0 or 1 or something on the document. It'll just be like a blank space on the document. Heading lines, obviously, we touched on. Subtotals. So if you wanted to subtotal out your different sections in the document, you can use a subtotal line just by clicking on Add Subtotal. Anytime you add a subtotal, it will calculate just those items based basically from where the subtotal starts and up. So if you have multiple subtotal lines, you can actually run a subtotal for each section in the document. So you'll see here, mine says subtotal, and then you could type in there. So if I wanted to call this product subtotal or products total, I can adjust that description. And then I can go down to my services, right-click again, and select Add Subtotal, and type it in here as well. And do the same thing, call this a services subtotal. And this is just going to subtotal up these two items. It's not going to include the products because we already have a subtotal for that product displayed as well. There's also a running subtotal line. So if you wanted to include just kind of like maybe you're doing a very large document and you have multiple subtotal lines to break it out for the customer, but you want to see like at a certain part of the document what the total is, you can use a running subtotal line for that, and that will ignore any subtotal lines that are included on the document. And then finally, add % discount and add % charge. Those will allow you to add a % discount or % charge as a line item on the document, so you can actually show your customer, here's a 10% discount, and it'll show a negative dollar amount for the customer so they can see, oh, I'm saving $280 on this particular quote. Anytime you run the % discount after a subtotal, it'll do it after that particular subtotal line. If you want to do it on a specific line item, you just need to run it on that line item rather than after a subtotal. All right, I'm going to go ahead and delete my subtotal lines here as well as my discount. And then now I can actually group some items together. So if you wanted to sell these items as like a package deal, you can do that. So if we go back to our products section, I can highlight my two products. So maybe I don't want the customer to know that they have to purchase the power cable. I just want them to think this is a, this package comes together with everything. You don't need to purchase anything individually. So what I can do is highlight my two items, and then you can either hit Control-G on your keyboard, and that will group them together, or you can right-click and select Convert to Group. Either one's going to do the exact same thing, and this will prompt you. It'll actually bring up a window that says Convert Selected Items to Group. You can set a discount modifier. So if you wanted to say, we sell this as a package deal, and since they're buying, these 10 items, they get a 10% discount since they're buying everything together. You do have that option. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And these will group my items together here. And then it's going to prompt me to set a description for this particular group. So you'll see here it'll be highlighted in yellow once items are grouped. So anytime you see yellow highlighted items, that means these items have been grouped together, so they're sold as a package. Also, if you look to the right under like the unit price and the unit list field, you'll see that the pricing is grayed out. That means the pricing is hidden. So anytime you do group items together, the price will automatically be hidden to the customer as well. So for my heading line, you can type in whatever you want. You can put in your description. So I'm just going to call this my Trip Light package. So this will give me the option of selling these particular items where the customer won't see the individual items. I could also go into those line attributes again. So right-click on an item or multiple items, edit the line attributes, and choose not to print the individual line items. I'm not going to do that here, but you do have that option available to you. Once you've grouped the items together, if you want to remove them from the group, you simply delete the header line. The header line is just basically a calculation line, sort of like a subtotal line. So all you have to do is delete it. So highlight it and hit delete on your keyboard. And then it'll just confirm that you do want to delete it. And then this will revert the items back to the way they were. So you don't have to worry about showing the price anymore because they're going to go back just the way they were as line items. So after you've made all the changes to the items on your document, everything looks the way you want it to, you're ready to, now you can actually save your work in QuoteWerks. That's going to be the most important thing that you do next, is you want to save the document. So we're going to go ahead and click Save. And this is where it's going to apply the document name. So like I mentioned earlier, the default naming convention is going to be the company that you're selling to and today's date. Again, if you want to change that setting, it's just done under the Options menu in QuoteWerks. Again, this is a system-wide change, so if you change it, you would be changing it for everyone, so just make sure you're able to do that. The document number will be assigned automatically. You can set your numbers manually, but we don't recommend it. We just recommend using our numbering sequence. And there are some customizations you can make to that, where you would be able to change like the first 3 letters of the document name, as well as where the 4-digit number starts, and kind of show you what I mean. But that is, you can like customize that, but we do recommend just using our numbering sequence, so you don't have to keep track of your document numbers. Status, again, the default we use is set as open. You can change that setting as well. So if you want to call it drafted or created or something like that, you can adjust that. And then project number. If you don't have a specific project number you want to use, just let it default to next available, and it'll assign a project number for you automatically. However, this is very useful if you have multiple quotes for the same project. So if you are working on a large project that maybe has a lot of phases or options, you can create multiple quotes for that and assign them the same project number, and then you'd actually be able to go into that open window that we talked about earlier and do a search on that project number, or from management side, you could actually run a report on that project number, and you could see which quotes are open, which ones have closed, how much revenue it's brought in, which ones are expiring. So project number is very useful for that kind of information, but like I said, if you're just creating the one quote for the one customer for the one deal, you can just use the next available and assign it. If you are using a CRM or PSA, there'll be a little dialog box directly underneath this, under that project number, where it'll actually have your different options that are available to you. If you don't see those, then you're not integrated with your particular application. You can set that up on QuoteWerks under the set up contact manager, and set the contact manager, CRM, or PSA that you're using. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. So this is going to save our document in QuoteWerks. So the first thing you're going to see is the document number. So it has the first 3 letters, which I've changed to FLA, which is just our location in Florida, the letter Q, and then a 4-digit number. So the first 3 letters you can customize to essentially whatever you'd like. You can select whatever characters, again, it's under the Options menu to change. The letter Q is what we call the document designator. This tells you if it's a quote, order, or invoice. So this makes it very easy to look at a document and know if this document is a quote, if it's an order, if it's an invoice. If it's a Q, it's a quote. If it's an O, it's an order. If it's an I, it's an invoice. And then the 4-digit number just starts at 1001, but again, that's something that can be adjusted if you need to. So now that I've saved my document in QuoteWerks, I'm ready to deliver this to my customer. So I'm going to click on my Deliver icon. And this is going to give me a list of my different layouts that I have available. In QuoteWerks, you can create a document for a simple 1-page quote. You can create one for multiple page quote or multiple page proposal. You can have one with various attachments. You can have one that's a combination. However you want, whatever you want to send to your customer, you'll be able to do. It's going to be completely up to you what the documents look like. They're fully customizable, so you'll be able to put in your own company logo, your own company colors, change fonts, format it, show some columns, hide others. You're going to have full control over what the customer receives from you. I'm going to show you just kind of like a simple quote, and then I'll show you kind of like a hybrid between like a quote and a proposal. And then if there's time at the end, we can go back and show like a full 18-page proposal and what that would look like. So I'm going to show you a quote one first. I'm going to make my selection under my Layout tab, and then I'm going to hit Preview. So this will actually display what my document's going to look like when I send it to the customer. So this will give you a good idea of what the customer's going to see, just so that you can make sure everything looks right before you actually send it to the customer. Again, this is all customizable, so you can see here you'd be able to drop in your own logo. You can include a picture of yourself if you wanted to give it more of a personal touch. If any of your items have pictures, those will be displayed here, as you can see, like mine shows. If it runs on multiple pages, don't worry, QuoteWerks will just continue to the next page with your information or with any items that don't fit on the first page. And then typically on most of our quotes or proposals, we'll actually have a summary section at the bottom where this will show you the subtotal, the tax, the shipping amount if there is some, grand total. If you require a deposit, well, it can also display that information as well. And then this particular one does show the monthly recurring so that the customer can actually see what is going to be the monthly bill that they're going to be receiving each day, or each month rather. So I'm going to go ahead and close out of there. So it looks good, so I'm ready to send this to my customer. So if you're not using QuoteValet, then from that preview window, you can actually click on the email icon up at the top, or if you get back to the print, share, publish, deliver window, you can actually click on email from here. Now, in QuoteWorks, we do have the ability to set up document approval. So if you go to email the document, or if you're using QuoteValet and try to upload it to QuoteValet, it'll prompt you to ask for approval if there's certain parameters that haven't been met. Basically, you can choose whether or not a user can send out a document based on the dollar amount of the document. So, if the document's over $10,000 and it requires management approval, or if the margin is too low or too high on the document, it can actually require management approval that way as well. Since I have master rights, I can actually override this approval requirement, but for reps, they're not going to be able to override it if it requires approval. It'll actually prompt you to submit an email to whoever is going to be approving it, and then they can decide whether or not the documents can be approved. To approve the document, it'll actually be done under the File menu. It's actually a File Approve Quote option, and when you do that, that'll pop up an email window, which will then let you send that in a notification to the rep that that email has been, or that quote has been approved. So when you're ready to deliver your document to the customer and you click email, it'll populate your email window. The tool will automatically be populated with the customer's contact information. If you need to send it to more than one person, you can type their information in. You can use the CC or BCC fields, or if you just put a comma between the email addresses, you can add multiple users under the to as well. By default, we're going to have some email templates that we have in QuoteWorks that you can use. These can all be customized, so if you want to change the verbiage or your signature or anything like that, you can edit those settings as well. And then you'll see the PDF is attached there under that attachments. And then once you hit send, that'll actually deliver the document to the customer and it'll send it out. If you are using a CRM or PSA software that we integrate into, when you hit send on this email window, we'll actually take that PDF version of the document and we're going to attach it to the opportunity in the CRM or PSA if that exists. Very useful if someone does not have access to QuoteWorks. They could actually go to their CRM or PSA application and view the PDF version that was sent to the customer. Or if someone's just out of the office and they call in and say, oh, I need to talk about this quote I received, you quickly go to their contact record and see their opportunity in the various applications and actually view the quote that was sent to the customer. So that's the first way that you can deliver the quote is via email. The second way is if you're using QuoteValet. So if you're using QuoteValet, we're going to do everything the exact same way we just did. There's going to be no difference except for instead of choosing email after you preview it, because you still want to preview it because we're going to include the PDF version of the document to the customer, and I'll show you that in just a minute. But the only difference is going to be after you choose preview, we're going to select upload to QuoteValet instead of email. If you select upload to QuoteValet, again, it's going to prompt you for another approval. So basically, your document's going to need to be approved before you can email it, upload it to QuoteValet, save it as a PDF, really get it out of QuoteWorks. It needs to be approved first. So we'll go ahead and we're going to override that approval again. And this is going to bring us to the upload quote to QuoteValet window. So there's going to be a couple steps that we need to go through. The first is going to be, do we want to view the PDF file? So if you wanted to view it from here, you can. You don't really need to because, like I said, typically you're going to preview it before sending it to your customer just to make sure that everything looks right before we're getting ready. The second step is going to be to upload it. So we're going to click on Upload, and this is going to upload our document to QuoteValet for us. You can have different templates in QuoteValet, very similar to the layouts where you go through and you just select the layout you want to use. QuoteValet works very similarly where you'll just select the layout. I'm going to use my customer-facing one because that's the one I like best. And so I'm going to go ahead and hit Upload, and it's going to upload my document to QuoteValet for us. Depending on how large your document is going to be dependent on how long it takes to upload, but it's usually going to be pretty fast. Like this one just took a couple seconds to upload. Once your document's been uploaded, you can actually preview this on QuoteValet. So you'll actually be able to see the internal version of this document. And what I mean by that is that we have basically two URLs for your quote. We have the customer-facing URL that's basically a tracked URL that we can see what they've done. And then we have the internal one that doesn't count as a view. I'm just going to go ahead and skip that step because I'm going to show you what it looks like from the customer side anyway. But you can preview it before sending it to your customers. So if you need to just see what it looks like before sending it to them, you're able to do that. So we're going to click Send Email. And again, this is going to pop up the Send Email window. There's going to be a couple differences for this one, though, other than the text, obviously, in the email. The first thing that you'll notice is that there's no attachment under the attachments side. So you'll see there's no attachment. It's just the particular information in the document and then the link to the quote. So if I click on my customer's link, so now we're going to pretend that we received this email and that we're the customer. So I'm going to click on this link, and I'm going to populate this email in my web browser. So it's going to open up this quote in my web browser. Once the customer clicks on the link in QuoteValet, that automatically sends an email to the sales rep notifying them that their quote has been viewed for the first time. So it's very useful that you know that the customer has actually received the quote from you. This will bring you to the QuoteValet page, so the customer can make any changes they need to that are available, and they can also just view the document. This can all be branded with your own company information again, so you can have your own company logo. You can include a banner, and so in QuoteValet it can have your company's information. It'll have your company contact information, and then the prepared by, that's going to be information you're pulling from the QuoteWerks document. Same thing with the picture of it, if you wanted to include that as well. You also see there's a thumbnail of the PDF document. If you click on that, that will actually open up the PDF document in your web browser, so that if the customer needs to print this off, if they need a hard copy for their purposes, for accounting or just in general, they can have this. Also very useful if you have any contracts that they need to read through. Since it's attached in that PDF document, they can actually read those contracts over and just make sure everything's the way that they need it to be. So we'll go back to our quote, and we're just going to scroll down a little bit, and this is going to show you the line item detail in the QuoteWerks document. I'll give it a second here just to catch up. So the line items are going to display, obviously, the line items from the document. One of the really nice things about QuoteValet is that the items become dynamic. This document becomes dynamic for the customer. Because if you remember, I set that item as optional earlier. I can now uncheck this box and click Update, and it'll actually deduct the total from my particular quote. So now my total is 337492. So it's actually taking that 2945 off of this document. You can also do a few other things with the QuoteValet documents. You could do mutually exclusive options. So if you wanted to give your customer the option between, like a good, better, best, or just option 1, option 2, you can actually create it so there'll be radial buttons between the two different options, and they can make their selection on which one they want to use. You can also have a QuoteValet template that would display the quantity, and you can change the quantity as well so that you can easily adjust that. And if you scroll a little farther, you'll see this is the ready to accept portion. This is going to be the order confirmation. So this is where the customer can electronically sign and accept the document. So this is very useful. Instead of having, the customer having to wait to, maybe during business hours to accept the document, they can actually come here on QuoteValet and they can electronically sign it here. You'll see the little checkbox that says they agree to the terms and conditions of the PDF document, and then they can put in a PO number if they'd like to. They don't have to. Same thing with comments. And then they can put in their email address, which should be populated automatically, and they can print their name and then sign it. However, if they have any questions about the document, they can actually post their question here and then hit Submit. And this will actually start a thread of this particular question here, and it'll post it on QuoteValet. This also sends an email to the sales rep so that the sales rep can first of all, be notified that there is a question. They can also see the question that the customer submitted. So as a sales rep, you can either reply directly to that email, or there'll be a link in there where you can actually respond via QuoteValet. I don't have email set up on this machine, so I'm actually going to go into QuoteWorks, and we're going to close out a couple of these windows. And then you'll see now, all the way to the right in QuoteWorks, there's now a QuoteValet tab that's available. So I'll wait for this to catch up here. This tab is only going to be available for any quotes that have been uploaded to QuoteValet. So you'll see all the way to the right, this QuoteValet tab. So we're going to go ahead and click on that. And then this QuoteValet tab is going to show us all the activity that of this document so far from the customer. So we will actually be able to see what time the customer viewed it, that they viewed the PDF attachment, that they changed an option, and then that they posted a comment. There's also a few other options that we're going to discuss here in just a minute as well. So all that information is going to be available. We'll actually track the IP address, so you'll be able to see what IP address opened it, if it was a mobile device, that kind of stuff. You'll be able to see all that information from the IP address here. We have ours zeroed out just for demo purposes. To the left, you'll see there's a customer and sales rep section, and underneath that there is a view sales rep facing page. So as a sales rep, if you want to respond to your customer's comment, you can actually click on that, and that will open up the QuoteValet login screen, which will have your account number as well as your username, and then you just need to put in your password. This is the same username and password as if you were logging into QuoteWorks. So you're going to use the exact same username to log into QuoteValet online as you would if you were logging into QuoteWorks on your machine. It's the exact same. We're using the same shared information. So I'm going to go ahead and put in my password and then hit login. And then that will let me log in here. And so then you'll see once I'm able to log in, it's going to bring me to the sales rep facing mode. And it'll actually let you know that it's obviously the sales rep facing mode because it says so, and it also says like internal in the background so that you know that this is the sales rep side of the document. This is not the customer side of the document. Now I can scroll down to the bottom, and I can actually post my comment here and respond to my customer's question. So I can actually type in respond, and hit submit, and respond to my customer's question down at the bottom. And you'll see there, it'll actually post my comment along with the customer's comment. And then that sends an email to the customer as well, so that the customer gets an email notification that I've responded to their comment. This will also send it'll CC the sales rep, so you'll get a copy so that you'll know that it did go out to the customer, that they did respond. We'll go back into here in just a moment, but there's a couple other things I wanted to show you on the QuoteValet tab. There's a view customer facing page, which will just bring up the customer side of things, again, the internal view, so you can actually see that information like exactly what the customer saw. There's also an option to recall the quote. So if you send out a quote to your customer and maybe you forgot to include sales tax, you forgot to include an item, or maybe something's no longer available, maybe you put a service on there that you're no longer offering, instead of having to send an email and say, disregard that quote, that's no longer valid, you can recall the quote, which will temporarily pull the quote down from QuoteValet and even let you list the reason why you recalled it. So if I click recall the quote, it'll let me put in a reason why I recalled it. And so I'm going to put in, I'm just going to say pricing change. And once that's done, I can hit OK. And then this is going to pull that quote down for me. That way I can make any adjustments to my quote, and then I can re-upload it to QuoteValet. So once I do that, all I have to do is make my changes to my document, and then you click on your Deliver button again, and then now you'll see there's actually a Express Mode button, so it's a little yellow button with a little arrow, and this will actually re-upload your document with any changes that you've made, and that way the customer will now be able to accept it. So the recall of the quote just enables you to quickly make changes to the document. That way the customer can accept it, so they're not, it's not legally binding to what you may not be able to offer anymore. Re-email notification, obviously that'll just email the notification to the customer. So we go back to our customer's quote. So the customer accepted our response and they're ready to move forward. So they're going to go ahead and sign off on the document, and they can put in a PO number there. They don't have to, it's optional. They can put in comments if they'd like, and then they're just going to sign off on the document. There is a template available for users that can have basically a signature that you draw. So if you wanted to do that, you have that option as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and click to accept. And this will bring us to the acceptance screen where the customer can actually accept the document. And then if you accept credit card payments or PayPal, there'll actually be a Pay Now button that's available. And you can click on the Pay Now and bring them to the payment screen so they can make payment on the document. So if you're using QuoteValet or you're not using QuoteValet, once the customer has accepted the quote, you want to convert the quote to an order. The reason you want to do that is that's basically how we close quotes in QuoteWerks. So once the customer has accepted it, I can convert it to an order. If you are using QuoteValet, it'll prompt you automatically to convert it to an order. Or if you're not using QuoteValet, you can simply go under the File menu, and there's an option that says Convert to Order. And when you click on that, that will prompt you. It'll actually say, do you want to convert this quote to an order? And I'll let this catch up so you can see what the screen's going to look like. So you can see there, you click on File, Convert to Order, and this will let you convert this document to an order. This is also important for a couple other reasons. If you are using some type of CRM or PSA software, it will also update the opportunity as closed or won in that particular CRM or PSA. So it's very useful just not only in QuoteWerks so that you can do a search on any open documents instead of having to look for orders. You can do that here, and that will update kind of everything system-wide in QuoteWerks and also on any other systems you're integrating with. So you can hit OK. So you can see it opens up, it converts that quote to an order, and you can see that up at the top. Our document number now reads as FLAO 1137 instead of FLAQ 1137. So from here, if you're using Sage 50 or QuickBooks and you're ready to send the document over, you can do that now. This would be an appropriate time to do so because you're basically done with the QuoteWerks document on that side. If you are processing orders with like Tech Data, Ingram, Synnex, or D&H, you can now click on the purchasing icon. And this will let you go into the QuoteWerks online ordering module where you can actually place the order with your particular distributors that we have accounts with in QuoteWerks, so Tech Data, Synnex, Ingram Micro, or D&H. This will let you source it by the currently open order. You can also do it by multiple orders, or if you want to just do it by vendor, you can do that. So you can kind of set a filter of the items you want to order, and then you just make your selection. So if I select Tech Data, I can make my selection, and then the Place Online Order button will be available for me in the bottom right-hand corner, and then I can go through and just complete the order that way. That's about as far as I can go without actually placing the order, so we're just going to go ahead and stop there. You will see up at the top next to the Purchasing tab, there's two other tabs. There's the Purchase Orders tab and a Ordered Items tab. This will actually show you tracking information for any orders that you have placed through QuoteWerks with those distributors. So it'll actually give you information related to the status of the status of the order. So if it's been submitted or anything like that. If you have serial numbers with those items, those will be available. If you have tracking numbers, those will be available. You'll also be able to add some of this information in manually. I don't have any demo information to show you, but you can go to those tabs, and that information will be available here for you. Same thing for the ordered items. It'll be similar to the purchase orders, but you can actually see it by a specific item rather than a purchase order document. And you can also source it by the PO number in there, or if you wanted to do it by vendor in the purchase orders tab, you can do it by vendor. All right, so now that we're done on that side, the purchasing, you've pretty much done in QuoteWerks. One thing we did want to kind of show you today is a fairly new feature called QuoteValet Web. So obviously it's going to be useful if you're using QuoteValet, is that we've added some advanced basic reporting capabilities for QuoteValet. So if I click on our QuoteValet dashboard button, this is going to show me all my notifications that I have to begin with. This can obviously be cleared out. So typically it's going to show you, the first 50, or it's going to give you a list of the ones that are in there. And you can go through and clear those documents out every time you've realized, you've said, okay, I know this person looked at it or this placed order. I can go through and I can dismiss these activities. You don't have to have them all there. But you do see if you select an activity, it will show you all the activity for that particular document. So to the right of that, you'll actually see there's a Launch QuoteValet Web button. So we're going to go ahead and click on that. And this is going to bring us to QuoteValet Web, and then I can actually click on, so for instance, like our dashboard. And then this is going to give us quite a few options here. So the first one is going to be inbox, and it's going to be very similar to what you just saw with the different notifications. So I can actually see the documents that I've sent out, when they were accepted, who accepted them, who created them, and it even sorted by sales rep. The other option is going to be any peer reviews that are pending. Those will actually be displayed here, and you can actually see, the peer review page, the activity history. You can even send a note. So if you need to send like a message about this particular item, you can do that. Same thing with the approvals. It's going to look very similar to peer reviews, where if you're expecting approval, you can go there, or you can view the approval page so you can actually approve the document. The executive summary, this is not going to be viewed by default in QuoteWerks. So even if you have QuoteValet and you've updated its latest version, this will not be available unless you go into QuoteWerks under the utilities, user maintenance, and the access rights. You actually have to give rights to view the executive summary. The reason for that is because it's going to give you basically all pricing information or all quoting information, all the quotes that have been created in QuoteValet. So you'll actually be able to build filters like if you want to see this month, how many quotes have been sent, how many were accepted, how many were paid, how many times did the customer view them, customer comments, sales rep comments, and then you can also do like a comparative analysis, which will open up and actually let you sort by the amount in the orders for different reps. Since this is my demo installation, I'm the only rep that uses it, but if you had multiple reps, it would actually show up here, and you can see how many the reps are selling. So it gives you just kind of, again, some more reporting functionality that's available. This will obviously give you a list of the quotes sent here, or if you click quotes accepted, it'll load with your quotes accepted. So it's going to sort based on whatever selection you make. So again, this is something that's not going to be shown by default. You do have to go under utilities, user maintenance, and edit the user and go to access rights and give permission. Even if you're an admin user or a master rights user, by default, no one's going to have access to this, so you will have to actually go out there and do it. My summary is going to be similar to executive summary, but it's just going to be for this specific user you're logged in as. So for instance, me, this is just going to show my information. So obviously I've only done one quote today, and it was accepted, and that information is there. But I could do it for this month and see which ones have closed and who paid and all that information. So the My Summary and the Executive Summary, the biggest difference there is that the My Summary is going to show you just yours. The Executive Summary would let you see everyone's. Finally, there's also a new status board under the dashboard. The status board is basically going to be what we call priority notifications. So anytime a customer has like accepted a quote or made payment or submitted a question or viewed like an expired quote, this status board will actually show that information for you. As these notifications are dismissed from users' inbox, they'll actually be removed from this screen as well. You'll also see over on the right, it'll show you just some kind of basic information. So it'll just show you top accepted quotes this week. It'll also go through and show you top accepted quotes for this month, for this year, and then top outstanding quotes, the ones that haven't closed yet for this week, this month, and this year. So it just kind of gives you a way that you can put this up in, like for instance, in our office, we have a TV that we've set up, or we have this being displayed so that all the sales reps can actually view all the quotes that are coming in, and which ones have paid, which ones haven't, which ones we need to follow up on, that kind of stuff. So you can actually show this for your sales reps so they can see kind of what's going on. A couple other options on here. The Document Explorer, if you want to look for a specific document, you can do that. You can see here, again, you can set a filter. So it's sort of going to be like that open window, but it's going to be in QuoteValet Web rather than QuoteWerks. You can also do a find. So if you want to look for a specific document number by the document number or name or the sold to company, you can do that. And then if you have admin rights, you can actually see usage monitor, and you can actually see what users have done and clicked on in QuoteValet Web so far. So you can actually see kind of who's using it and who's not. So that pretty much wraps up everything we wanted to cover today. I know that there's been some questions submitted, so I think we'll probably try to get to a few of those here if we can.
right, thank you very much, Brandon. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and answer some of the questions that that you guys had that would be good for everybody in the group here. One of the questions asked by Liz as we were going through some of the differences between a bundle and a group and what the benefits of either one of those would be. And typically, a bundle would be a group of items that you would normally be selling together consistently, whereas a group of items is just something that you create a group of on the fly. So it really depends on what is going to be the best scenario for you. Now, if you have the same items that you're quoting over and over and over again, you definitely want to use that as a bundle, whether that be a simple bundle or a group bundle as well. And we'll go through a couple more of these here. And one of the questions that was coming up is this webinar going to be recorded? And yes, it is, and it will be on our website here momentarily today. Let's see. Okay, so a good question from Eric. For those of us not integrated with ConnectWise or QuickBooks, we just use QuoteWorks for quoting. Can you describe the importance and or difference of quote, order, and invoice? It's a good question. Basically, it's just a different stage for your document. Typically, you're going to start with a quote. When that quote is won, you're converting it to an order. You're doing what you need to do to actually place the order, maybe with your vendors or distributors. And then from that point, it goes to the next stage, which is an invoice. You don't necessarily need to use all three stages. We have some customers that will only use a quote in an order stage. We also have some customers that actually start off at the order stage and moving on to invoice, or even stranger than that, we have those that just start as an invoice using QuoteWorks as well. And Brandon, would it be possible, Ruth had a question, can you show how to do like a simple import of products for her?
Yeah. Into a quote or into a database?
Let's just say into a database.
Okay. So if you're going to be pulling items into a database, you're going to use our import wizard. So that's going to be under products, and then there's an option for import wizard. And then the first thing you're going to do is you're going to select the file that you're going to import. Typically, it's going to be, you probably receive like an Excel file from your vendors. You need to make sure that you have saved that file as like a CSV or a text file in order for us to import it. So you'll have the option here to select the text file that you'd like to import. I'm going to go ahead and make a selection. And let me find one of my files here. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this one in. So once you've made your selection, it should recognize what type of file it is. You won't need to make any changes here. You just need to make sure that it actually recognizes the file that you're using. And then you can hit Next. And this is going to bring you to the mapping stage, so the first mapping. The first mapping is kind of the most important because it's going to have the manufacturer part number field, which is required in QuoteWorks. So you always want to make sure you map that. That's going to be the unique identifier for this particular item in QuoteWorks. So I'm going to click on manufacturer part number, and I can see that I have already actually created this product list before, and it has my correct fields. So if I click on manufacturer part number, it already has it listed, and I can select the correct field. And then I'll just go through the other ones as well, where you'll select the vendor part number if there is one. Not required, the description, manufacturer if that's available, cost, price, that kind of stuff. Really the only fields that are required are going to be the manufacturer part number, and I would say description also, just because you want to know what the item is, because that's going to be the customer-facing description of it. So we'll go through very quickly, and we'll pull in the rest of those and map those, and then we can go to the next step, so step 3 for the advanced. The advanced mappings, and I'll wait a minute here while we catch up. The advanced mapping is going to be for any type of other fields that you need to map into QuoteWorks, and these can be a variety of different ones. From one of the first ones you're going to see is category, or if you have multiple, like if you're doing like volume pricing, things like that. Any kind of custom fields. So if you have a field that you need but you don't see it in QuoteWorks and you're going to use a custom field for it, you can use any of the custom text or custom number fields. Those will all be available for you. And then once you've made your selections there, you can click Next. And then the step 4 is going to be the destination step. this is where you are selecting where the items are actually going to be imported to. So if you have a database already imported, there'll be a drop-down available where you can actually select the existing database. Or if you haven't created the database yet, you can choose the first option, which says have QuoteWerks create a new database to put the products into. So that's the selection we're going to make, so you can see the full range of how it's created. And then it's going to basically just prompt you with a couple different options, like where do you want to start? Start at row what? Well, we don't need to start at row 1 because I know in this particular document, row 1 is just the headings of my pricing, so I'm actually having to start at row 2. And then import mode, I don't have any items in there because it's a brand new database, so I'm going to just leave the default selection, which is delete all existing products in the selected database and append the new products. If you had items in the database, that would remove everything and just add what's in this list. So you only want to do that if you are importing into a blank one, or if you're starting out fresh, where you're, your vendor gave you a brand new price list where you don't need any of those existing items, you don't care about any price history or anything like that, and you can remove them. You also have the option to append the products to the existing database. So if you just wanted to keep the products that are in there but also add some new ones, you can do that. You can also update any existing products and add new ones. So if something's changed, maybe the prices have changed for a few items and you want to add new ones, the third option is available. And then the fourth one, that will just let you update any existing products. So if prices have changed, you can just update them, but it won't include any new products if you don't want those to be added. So we're going to go ahead and hit next. And then finally, this is going to prompt us to save it as a template. This is very, very useful if you sell or if you update your items on a regular basis. You can actually save this as a template. You can give it a name. So we'll just call this our webinar import. And what this will allow you to do is use the same mappings again. So if you receive this same format from this same vendor every time, and a lot of them do because they're not going to create a brand new Excel sheet to send you each time. So they're going to send you a similar format. You won't have to go through the mappings again. You can actually start from the template. It's always smart to kind of go through the mappings just to make sure nothing's changed in the document from the customer, but you'll have everything pre-mapped and you can kind of go quicker once you've done it once. So we'll go ahead and save it, and then we'll hit Start Import. And then it's going to prompt us to create a new vendor database name. So I'm going to go ahead and we'll just call this our webinar database, and then hit OK. And it's going to give us the information to enter a new database file name. And I'm just going to, again, call it webinar database and hit OK. And then it's going to import it into QuoteWerks. It'll tell you how long. There weren't very many parts in this particular price file, so it was less than a second that it took to import. If you have 100,000 parts, it's going to take a little longer. So it's just going to be dependent on how large that file is that you're importing into QuoteWerks at that time. And so I don't need to view the log file because that's just going to show me kind of what it did. So now I can click on my products icon or click on the menu option for the products and then look up the top. Like I said, I always click on the products icon because it's a little faster. And then once I see that it's completed and I click on my products, the database will be on the left-hand side. And I can choose to show all when I select my database. And this will show a list of all the items that I just imported into QuoteWerks. And I'll wait a minute here for it to catch up to me. And like I said, you can do this essentially as many times as you need. So if you have multiple databases that you need to import, you can do it over and over again. Or if you're just importing them all into one, you can do that. So this will show you a list of your items that are now imported in QuoteWerks.
Perfect. And then John had a question about showing a quick demo of the configurator icon from the toolbar, if you could do that as well.
Okay. So we'll go ahead and we'll start with a brand new quote to show the configurator. So when you create the configuration in QuoteWerks, the default one we have in here is going to be the entertainment system. So that's the one I'm going to show you. I'll also show you kind of what it looks like on the back end so you can see that, kind of visualize what it's going to be. But it's essentially a flow chart that you create in QuoteWerks, so it's going to be a step-by-step. So we click on the configurator button, and the one that's in there is entertainment system. If you have multiple ones, they'll obviously have different names, and then you select the one you want to use, and you click Start. And again, we're just going to catch up here with GoToMeeting while we'll wait for that. And then once it catches up with us, it's going to bring you to step 1. So for this instance, it's going to be type of TV. So you can see here I'm going to select the entertainment system and hit Start. And this will bring us to step 1. Okay. So step 1 is going to show us basically the available items, which is branch to plasma, branch to HDTV, and branch to pure flat. So it's basically saying these are the 3 types of TVs that we offer. We offer a plasma, HDTV, and pure flat. So I'm going to make my selection. You can see underneath the available items box, it says select at least 1 and then select no more than 1. This is telling you basically saying you have to select at least 1, but you can't select more than 1, so you have to make a selection. A lot of times you can set different variables. You can set, select 0 or select 5 or whatever you want to do, and then that'll give a range of what the customer can or what the user can set. So I'm going to go ahead and do plasma, and I can either double-click on it, and that will move me automatically to the next step, or if I click Add, it'll just add it to my selected items, and then I can hit Next and move on to step 2. So anytime you double-click on the item, it'll add it, but it's also going to automatically move you to step 2. So you just need to be aware of that when you're using the configurator. So on step 2, we can actually select our TV. So this is basically saying, okay, what size TV do we want to select here? And we can go ahead and we're going to we'll select the 50-inch. And since I need at least 1 and no more than 1, I'm just going to double-click on it because that one is easy enough to go to the next screen for. So this brings us to step 3, and then this brings us to the accessories. Now, if you'll look up at the top, this is actually showing us accessories for the 50-inch plasma. So this is specific to this TV. It's not for the 42-inch. It's not for the 46-inch. It's specifically for the 50-inch TV. So here is going to be, I know that these are going to be my items that fit this TV specifically. So I can use this wall bracket and attach this one to our document and the video controller. And I know that they will be compatible with my TV because they're only the accessories for my TV that I selected. So that's one of the nice things about the configurators. You're going to have full control over what options are available, so you can make sure they're the right ones. So this is kind of walking you through making sure you're just selecting the correct options to include in this document. So now we'll click Next. And this brings us to receivers. So I can select at least 0, no more than 1. So basically I can select 1 receiver, or I don't have to. If you're not building, in this instance, an entertainment system, you could skip this step. I'm going to go ahead and select 1, and we'll go ahead and select the most expensive one, send to our customer. And you can, again, either double-click on it, and it'll take us to the next step, or you can click Add and then hit Next, and that'll send us over to step 5. So we'll go ahead and hit Next. That'll bring us over to step 5, which are going to be speakers. And this will show us, again, a list of speakers. This should start to look fairly familiar, where we can select, we don't have to select any, but we can select no more than 10. So we can go through here and we can select, we'll select a subwoofer and the center speaker, the surround sound package, and some bookshelf speakers. And we'll add those to our document. And then once I've made those selections, I can click Next. Brings us to step 6, which is going to be the wiring package. I think you guys need to catch up here. I think you're a little behind me. So I'll pause here. So basically, all we've done so far is basically go through, and everything is related to my previous selections, because it's going to be a flow chart that you're following. And again, I'll show you what that flow chart looks like here in just a moment. So once you've selected your speakers, we can then move on to the wiring packages. Again, this one's going to be select at least 0 or select no more than 1, which means I can select up to 1 or 0. I don't have to select 1. So I'm going to go ahead and select my package and add it to the document, and then hit Next, and we're going to go on to step 7. This one will be the last step. So this is basically showing us what we had selected. So if we need to make an adjustment or if we need to remove something, you'll have that option. You can highlight it, or if everything looks good, you can finish it. You also see there's a heading option at the bottom, so if you wanted it under a certain specific heading in the document, you can do that. So then we'll hit Finish, and it's added it to our document for us. And then you can see once it's added to the document, it is added as a grouped bundle in QuoteWorks so that you can make any adjustments that you need to. So if you need to adjust the quantity, the price, anything like that, you can easily make those adjustments here. And then if we go back into our configurator, so this time we're going to click on the configurator icon, and we're going to highlight the entertainment system again, and we're going to select Edit. And when you click on that, you'll actually see there's two tabs once it gets there. And the two tabs are going to be the settings, which kind of gives you just like the basic configuration name, internal notes if you need to put those, a part number if you want to assign one, as well as a description. And then there's also a flowchart tab. So that's the one we want to click on, is the flowchart tab. So this just kind of gives you a visual on what is happening when you are building a configurator, kind of what you want to do. As you can see here, this is going to show you the type of TV, and then it has the three different options. It has the pure flat, HDTV, and plasma. And if you select plasma and you select the 50-inch, so there's a specific part number associated with that, it has its own little container all the way to the right, where that's where it brought us to those accessories to make sure that we selected the correct wall mount for that. So it actually skipped over the container for the accessories for plasma because the other accessories were interchangeable with the other TVs that were in there. The accessories for the 50-inch plasma was specific for that one. And then that took us back to receivers and then the speakers. So you can see everything can share the receivers and the speakers and the wiring packages because that's all universal, but all the other ones had the accessories specific to that particular TV that we were selecting. And so that should give you kind of an idea of how you can use a configurator in your current processes, and what you can build is it's just going to be basically a flow chart that you kind of set up.
All right. Thank you very much there, Brandon. I wanted to thank everybody for joining us for this webinar. We've had a few more questions that came in, but if your questions were not answered, please send an email to support@QuoteWerks.com, or you can give us a call at 407-248-1481. Again, this video will be on our website later today or tomorrow, and also later today or tomorrow we will have version 4.9 build 4 on the website as well that has a number of great new features, some of which Brandon was showing off here today. So thank you again, and if you do have questions, please feel free to give us a call or send us an email. You can also contact us via social media on Facebook and Twitter as well. Thank you again, and have a great day.